Have you ever heard of C2 Gripz? If not, you will probably be just as surprised as I was. Technically, the C2 Pistol Gripz, as they are called, are an accessory for your gaming controller, ergonomically designed to prevent wrist pain during longer gaming sessions, improve your gaming performance, and enhance the overall gaming experience. But it turns out there's actually much more to it. The science behind the grips themselves, and also the details about the Gripz company and what they are actually doing for gamers and streamers as a community, is really interesting. C2 Gripz offered us a sample of the product in exchange for an elaborate review. So in this video we will be doing an unboxing of the grips, show how to install them onto a controller, and test them for a couple of days to give you our first-hand experience. And if by the end of this video you should decide to get a pair of grips for yourselves, make sure to follow the links in the description below. And also use the promotional code IKARI to get a $5 off bonus. Right now the grips are available for PS4, PS5 and Xbox controllers. We got the PS4 version here and also the medium-sized grips. That's right, there are different sizes available because not everybody has the same sized hands. So you actually have to measure your hands following this chart here, and you will know which size fits you the best. Okay, so the box is a bit heavier than I expected. I don't think the grips themselves will weigh a lot, and it's also quite sturdy. Ah, cool, that's one of those magnet boxes. So the lid is magnetic. That's pretty cool, that's a nice touch. And the grips themselves, of course. Yeah, they actually do feel quite heavy, to be honest. Well, I will measure the exact weight later. Other than that, there is actually not much to say about the unboxing. There is only a C2 Gripz sticker in here and also this card with some information, but that's pretty much it. Nothing else in the box. So what follows right now is to actually put them onto a controller. Here are the grips, well, one of them. And I also have two controllers here. One generic PS4 controller and this one also, which is a cheaper version, so kind of an imitation, a bootleg controller from AliExpress. But it should have exactly the same measurements, it also weighs roughly the same. So to put these grips onto the controller you just have to... yeah, that's actually quite tough to get them on there, to be honest, but... yeah, in the end they do fit pretty well. You can also try them with the other controller. Okay, surprisingly it's actually much easier to get them onto this bootleg controller here. I suspect it's because of the other one, the Cyberpunk controller, because it has those custom stickers here. So I guess because of that it's a bit harder to slide them on. But yeah, I was able to put them on there using a bit of force. It was no problem in the end, so both controllers fit perfectly. As to what it feels like to actually hold this thing in your hands, well, as you can see, each finger has its own spot where I can put it, and it feels really comfortable. Well, I guess they called Pistol Gripz for a reason. It does feel a little bit like holding a gun, to be honest, so yeah. The Americans will love them for sure. As for the rest of the world, I guess they are not bad. It's also quite cool how the controller can stand just like that. It's a nice difference, so even optically they make a good impression. But the big question is, of course, are those grips actually worth it? Because they do cost quite a bit, and the question I have is, are they better than, for example, something like this? This is like a basic silicone skin that you can get for a couple of dollars. The material of the grips is actually quite hard, because it's supposed to be a mixture of rubber and plastic, and I expected them to be a bit softer, to be honest. It's just really similar to holding a gun, in my opinion. Also, the way you hold the controller absolutely changes, because while the normal position is kind of like this, like a bit to the front, with the grips it becomes a bit more upright, kinda. There is also a very nice comparison on the website where you can directly see how it impacts the way you hold the controller. And this is of course the important part and actually what the whole thing is about. When your wrist position changes to this one, the strain that is on your wrist tendons also is reduced. Also because your pinkies rest down here on this pad specially designed for that, the whole contraption becomes much more stable, and this is also how you get more control over the whole situation. And this is also why it's supposed to improve your performance, your accuracy in shooters, for example, and so on. And another thing those grips claim to improve, or more like prevent, is the so-called gamer's thumb. or D. Quervain's tenosynovitis. Jesus Christ. Yeah, it's supposedly caused by strain on your thumb tendons and can lead to inflammation after longer gaming sessions. And I just painfully realized that I experienced something like that basically a lot earlier when I was working as a mechanic. And sometimes when I had to hold like a spanner or something for a longer amount of time, especially in an uncomfortable position, I noticed that I had this problem with my tendons. And now I painfully realized that it might actually also be connected to gaming. So technically, theoretically, I hope so, those grips will actually be the right thing for me, just the right thing for me. Well, there are a lot of other diseases or injuries mentioned that can occur from gaming, you know. It sounds like gaming it kills your wrists and stuff. Like, for example, common injuries caused by gaming include carpal tunnel and trigger finger or tenosynovitis. Yes, all those interesting sounding names. And usually controllers are used of cheap, stiff plastic. Well, this is the thing. This is also why I was using this kind of things, like, more or less my whole life. Well, probably not, but a lot of years I would put this onto a controller just to improve it, to make it a bit more soft and more comfortable to hold. So, yeah, I guess those grips are like the evolution of this. Also, one thing I have to point out, this kind of stuff that you put over the controller also comes with those analog stick thingies, also to improve traction and grip of it. I literally got them on every controller I use. Here's one too. So actually, I'm a bit surprised that the grips do not come with something like that, because as I said, if you buy such silicone skins, they usually have also those special caps for the analog sticks. So yeah, maybe this is something the C2 Gripz company can actually improve in the future. How about that? You can literally put C on one and 2 on the other. How does that sound? Well, there are much more scientific facts to, just back up the science behind this and probably justify the price. Like, for example, that the way the pinky is supported, and the pinky is responsible for 50% of grip strength, apparently. They're supposed to give you better reaction time, crazy control, and so on. They also talk about the different sizes, and you actually can read way more. They're talking about some different studies and so on, how the developer of those grips, why he decided to make them in the first place and how it's improved his gaming experience. So he decided to actually make a product out of it, and apparently the C2 Gripz brand is actually quite successful. And this is also what I wanted to mention, because the company itself, it does not just sell those things, actually they also recruit gamers and streamers to represent their product and do a little something for them. I will also talk a bit more in a different video, but for now the next step is to actually test those grips. So the next couple of days we will be playing games, finally, and see what those things can do. Okay, I tested the grips with several games: Starfield, Devil May Cry 5, Zenless Zone Zero, Armored Core 6, and Halo Master Chief Collection. So the first thing I'm going to say is it is definitely way more comfortable to play with those. It's a big difference, especially when you put them down on your lap with those pads here, because that way you have the most stability. And also remember what I said about the weight? Well, it doesn't matter, because if the controller is not in the air, it does not apply. Makes sense. And also what I said about it being a bit too solid and not soft enough. Actually, I didn't feel any discomfort in this regard. It definitely feels comfortable, especially how each finger has its own space here and how it perfectly fits my hands. I mean, there are different sizes, as I already mentioned, and this size is really just the right size for me, and that is why it just generally feels more comfortable to use, because the controller overall becomes bigger. I mean, I have made the comparison between a gun. Why are gun grips shaped like this? Well, simply because it's the most efficient and most comfortable, most stable way to hold them. So the developers who made those grips, they obviously adapted to the gun concept. This is also why they are called Pistol Gripz. About the more relaxed position and how it's supposed to prevent wrist pain or inflammation in the thumb tendons, well, actually I noticed it in a different way depending on the game. Like for Starfield, for example, I didn't really notice it much, because Starfield is generally a more laid-back game. There is action, of course, too, but a lot of the time you just run around, talk to NPCs, gather stuff, stuff and all that, but with fast-paced reaction-type games like Zenless Zone Zero or Devil May Cry, or as a matter of fact a shooter, Halo, there I noticed it a bit more. I remember in the past I usually used to do this in between, between gaming sessions, like when there's a cutscene or something chill is happening, I usually used to do this because my wrist just felt uncomfortable, and they would also do those cracking noises sometimes. It doesn't happen anymore. It really is way better with this controller. I was really positively surprised myself because I didn't expect there to be such a big difference, and that said, I did not test them for like 8 hours in a row. I just don't have the time for this. So what I'm saying is, if they did such a big difference for me in a short time, then there must be a real blessing for people who play a lot, like hardcore gamers or especially streamers. So yes, I actually definitely recommend those, especially for people who spend a lot of time gaming, and especially also for people who are a bit older and have problems with their wrists and joints and tendons and all that. For me, as a hardcore gymmer, I actually do often have problems with my forearms and, especially the wrists. So yes, after a hardcore workout, it is obviously better to have your wrists relaxed, and those things actually help with that. So yeah, this product might be a bit pricey, but it does what it promises. So the only minor inconvenience, if you can call it that way, is that the Gripz package does not include also those what do you call those caps you put on the analog sticks? Well, I mean, I have them already, but for people who buy something like this for the first time, it would actually be cool if something like that was included. And another little thing I want to talk about, the charging station. Well, it's not really a negative thing, but it is a negative thing for me, because with those grips, the controller, it does not fit onto the charging station. Well, the problem is my charging station uses this lower port for charging and not the upper one, because there are also charging stations where you put the controller like this. So to charge the controller on the charging station, I actually have to remove the grips. But as a matter of fact, it was the same with that silicone skin, because it made the whole controller a bit thicker. I could not connect it to the charging station even with this charging port. So yes, if you're going to use it with a charging station, make sure you have one where you put the controller like that and use the top charging port and not the lower one. But yeah, other than that, it's a pretty cool product, so go buy it. I mean, if you have problems with your wrists or don't want to have it in the future. And if you should buy them, make sure to use the promo code Ikari, follow the links in the description, and use the promo code Ikari to get a $5 discount. And also thank you all for watching, fellas, and see you around.